Imagine a world where Batman isn't rich, Superman wasn't raised by the Kents, and Wonder Woman was born in Hades. How much can you really take away from a character before they stop being heroes we recognize? That's the question DC is asking right now with their Absolute Universe, and I want to find out if my superhero can survive the same test. So today, we're creating the absolute version of my superhero, Bullet Boy, dissecting him piece by piece, taking him from the superhero I grew up making and transforming him into a character that could sit on the shelf with the rest of the Absolute series. Now, on the surface, this might seem easy. Take your hero, bulk them up, and make their lives horrible. But if you look closer, every Absolute character is built the same way. And once you figure out the formula, you can apply it to any hero. I've put together a simple checklist with 3 critical steps that give us the perfect foundation for our character and everything we need to create our design. Step 1 is going to be to break the character down to their core. We need to find the truth of who they really are. Who is this hero without the mask? Who are they without their symbol, status, or stories? Now, if you would ask me this question when I created Bullet Boy as a kid, I don't think I would have had an answer. Because back then, Bullet Boy's origin and story as a whole didn't really have a motivation. Josh McKean was just a kid who wanted to be a superhero, and that's pretty much all there was to it. Fun, but ultimately too simple. Now, years later, as I've slowly been rebooting his actual series, I've actually taken time to figure out what makes this Bullet Boy tick. In issue 1, when we meet Josh McKean, we see that he's grown up in a world where superheroes are on the rise. He's seen the appreciation for them, the status that they have, and as someone who's lived in a mostly empty house all his life, that recognition is something he wants. In fact, it drives everything he does in the first few issues. It's in issue 2 where he admits that deep down, his reason for helping people is mostly because it's what he's seen other heroes do. For him, what started his hero career, doing the right thing, saving the day, has simply been the mechanism by which he's seen other heroes gain the status that he wants. Of course, he knows that saving people is the right thing to do. It's just that without ever having lost something or someone close to him, he's been privileged enough to be ignorant. A belief he'll have to confront as he steps deeper into the world of heroism. Step 2 is to take something that has always defined the character and flip it completely on its head. I could just make him really slow, but that would not only make him boring, it's just not the point of this universe. Bullet Boy in the normal universe is pretty much free to do whatever he wants. So for this absolute version of Bullet Boy, what if we took away that freedom and funneled his story through that lens? What if the events of his life played out different, and instead of being raised in a home cared for by a family, he's been trained since birth by an oppressive tech oligarchy, in this case an evil company like Nextech. But in the Absolute Universe, they've drilled in his mind every day that the world is a better place by protecting it, defending society from danger as their shiny silver bullet. But deep down, that core is still missing. With no memory of his past and very limited lived experience, he has no identity. So like the main universe, Absolute Bullet Boy will have to grapple with learning what's important to him in a whole new way. Now, step 3 is to remove or recontextualize the support systems or side characters in this new world. For Bullet Boy, my mind immediately goes to his family, his famous athlete parents, his robot butler, and his sister Brittany. This might be the most important step to grounding our hero in this Absolute Universe, because this means that Josh's parents, who in the main universe are not only responsible for giving him and his sister powers, but here in the Absolute Universe, that's all they were. Now that Nextech has their weapon, the parents have been disposed of, and for Nextech, that's their best kept secret. Just that little bit of backstory adds an interesting layer to his origin. But what about his mentor and his sister? I think I've got some good ideas that will come into play with the design. Now, for his suit, his abilities are all pretty much the same. Super speed, ultra durability, so the absolute Batman approach of just making him enormous doesn't really apply here. Instead, his suit is aerodynamic, built to cut through the air at top speed. The mask becomes a blunt-looking, reinforced shield, designed to take heavy impacts. And because it's what I'd consider to be a core design element, his hair still pokes out the top. Only now it's got more anime flair to it, longer and spiky. And inside the helmet, this is where it gets interesting. He's got a HUD running on a targeting system, one you might recognize in the main universe as Shaka, who in this Absolute Universe never went off the rails and tried to take over the city. Here, he was created by Nextech and instituted in Bullet Boy's suit since day one. Similar programming in a completely different context. It adds a tactical Deadshot kind of look, making every one of his speed attacks more precise. I'm really leaning into this idea that he's a human bullet, and as I was working through his suit design, I kept coming back to one thought. If he's going to be the bullet, he needs a gun. I'm not talking about a weapon that he fires, instead something more like the Batmobile equivalent for the character, a cannon system or something that he can load himself into and use to launch himself at extreme velocity when he really needs to push past anything or reach an area his body can't do without proper leverage. I tried to make it so that when he gets inside, he's not riding it like a vehicle. Instead, he takes the runner's start position, so that at any moment when he's properly aimed, the cannon can fire him out like a projectile. Maybe making it literally gun-shaped is a little on the nose, but I'm squeezing this universe and its rule of cool for everything that it's worth. Okay, and so now that I've got a start on the absolute Bullet Boy design and his absolutely over-the-top vehicle, I can't help but imagine what it would be like to see these designs in action. So I think I want to draw a few pages of this comic. But this first absolute Batman cover is instantly iconic. I feel like I wouldn't be doing this challenge justice if I didn't make one. The main thing I really wanted to do, aside from homage what DC's doing, is sell this new character design with this grittier tone, so that you immediately look at it and go, that's not the normal Bullet Boy I'm used to. And I think it turned out pretty cool. I've also got to give you a quick thank you for helping me cross 600,000 subscribers. To celebrate, I teamed up with one of my favorite artists to create a limited edition Y2K style Bullet Boy shirt, available for pre-order right now at retroware.com. I love collecting merch for my favorite characters, but sometimes what's out there is rarely something I'd actually wear. So we went all out on making sure this was really cool. Bullet Boy front and back, there's also a keychain and poster, and this ocean blue color is only available to the bundle while supplies lasts. Something about it really reminds me of the water in a lot of the early 2000s video games. It's a pre-order, so grab it now, link in the description. Thank you so much for coming along on this journey. I can't wait to see what the future has in store. Now to get drawing this comic. Page 1 has a lot to do. It has to introduce the world, establish the tone, bring in the characters, all before the action even starts. So I open with a wide shot, establishing the dystopian city. Bullet Boy on the roof, picking his next target. Bullet Boy now locks into his human cannon, and we get some really cool close-up shots of him taking off. The first step in setting up the payoff on page 4. Now, page 3 is going to give us a chance to breathe and check out the designs. We get to see what Absolute Bullet Boy looks like on the hunt. At the same time, we'll get a little bit of an interaction between him and Shaka. Each panel gets to highlight something different. His hair and mask, the tech he's using, and the subtle tension that not everything in this picture is right. That possibly in another universe, this dynamic wouldn't play out so well. And page 4 is the payoff to everything we've been building up to. Absolute Bullet Boy is locked and loaded, he's aimed, and now it's time to fire. Now, a good teaser comic lives or dies on its last page, which is why I think it makes the most sense to, instead of showing you the process of drawing this page, let you experience it for yourself.
The skies weren't always this color. There was once a time when the air wasn't poison, streets were safe, and great power had an obligation to protect. But for the 17 years I've been alive, the powerless have been weak. They fought back using the only way they knew how. Wealth. With it, they could assemble the world's greatest minds and engineer a defense. A protector of their own design. A weapon. They could aim. Without total control, this city is without order. No one can live above the law of the governing. Not even the gifted.
Objective located. Verity Tower. Hostile present.
Got it. Paging rail cannon.
Rail cannon system status. Inbound.
These metahumans, creatures, they're the reason I exist. If it weren't for them, I might still have my mother and father, and they might still have the option to live.
Status updated. Bullet suit. Locked. And loaded.
If it weren't for Nextech making me, molding me into what I am, I would have no shot at revenge. Now being like them, maybe I would have joined them in another life. All I know is the truth, that all of this pain is their doing.
Nearing target. Safety precautions measured. Firing solution locked.
Unlock system.
Are you sure? Collateral damage is very high.
I'll live.
Status updated. Less than 5,000 feet from target.
Let's lock it up. Aiming for the northern spire.
Launch system. Engaged. Fire.
I am the weapon. This is what I was made to do. But for the first time in my life, I flinched when the hammer dropped.
That's right, the rest of the hero assembly exists, only now as metahumans on the run. And little does Bullet Boy know, but his sister is at the very top. He doesn't even know she exists. As long as he could remember, he was a child living alone in a laboratory. But unlike him, she escaped, and is now considered to be a failed experiment. Once she uncovered their greater plan, she became insubordinate and untrainable. Now she's the living poster child for anti-metahuman propaganda, hiding in the shadows, assembling a team in order to one day take on the oppressive corporations fighting to eliminate them. Now, while Absolute Bullet Boy is different, I believe the hero I made as a kid, the one I've been rebooting for the past few years, is still in there. Even after you take away his butler, his family, his comfort, even after being raised by an organization against his best interests, you still have a Josh McKean, a Bullet Boy, that's looking for his own purpose to be in the suit. A way to use these powers that right now are being used against him and others like him. And now that I've got some cool designs and the world has started to take shape, I can't help but wonder what some of the villains would look like in the Absolute Bullet Boy universe. If you have some ideas for them, drop them in the comments below, as well as what you think I should call the Absolute Bullet Boy universe that isn't absolute. I thought about doing maximum or extreme, but most of the cool options have been taken by the big two. If you want more Bullet Boy and want to continue watching me build my superhero universe, watch this video right here. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.